Tales from the Galaxy's Edge with the Night Owl. At the edge of the galaxy, where even starlight hesitates to tread, Solen found themselves standing before a realm of infinite quiet. The air here, if it could be called air, shimmered with the faintest echo of forgotten songs, harmonies that had once been sung by stars but now lingered only as whispers. The endless horizon stretched before them, a boundary that seemed both invitation and warning. Beyond it lay the abyss, uncharted, unyielding, unknowable. Solen's ship, a battered vessel of fractured metals and fading glyphs, rested silently behind them, its once bright engines now dull as embers. The journey had been long, years or perhaps centuries, though time had lost meaning somewhere between the pulsars and the voids. They had chased myth after myth, hoping to find something that could anchor their drifting soul, only to end up here, at the edge of everything and nothing. They sat on a jagged outcrop of rock, its surface cold and smooth as though polished by eons of celestial winds. A nebula in the distance cast its glow over the landscape, swirling in colours that defied language, shades of longing, hues of memory. Solen closed their eyes and let the silence settle around them like a cloak. For the first time in ages they felt still. But the stillness was not empty. A rustle, faint as the breath of a comet, stirred the quiet. Solen opened their eyes to find a figure perched on a rock nearby. It was an owl, though unlike any they had ever seen. Its feathers shimmered with the depths of the night sky, flecked with stardust that glittered like the dreams of galaxies. Its eyes, golden and unblinking, seemed to pierce through the layers of time itself. "You have wandered far," the owl said, its voice soft but resonant, as if it spoke with the authority of the cosmos. Solen's throat tightened. They had not spoken to another being in what felt like lifetimes. What are you?" they managed to ask, their voice hoarse from disuse. "I am known by many names," the owl replied, tilting its head as though amused by the question. "The Watcher, the Story Keeper, the Guide. But you may call me what you wish." "Why are you here?" Solen asked, unease creeping into their voice. The owl's feathers rippled, catching the nebula's light in a way that made it seem almost alive. "I might ask the same of you," it said. "Why does a traveller journey to the edge of the galaxy, to the brink of the abyss?" Solen hesitated. The question felt too vast, too raw. "I don't know," they admitted, lowering their gaze. "I thought I was searching for something, but now I'm not even sure what that is anymore." The owl let out a soft, knowing hum, its eyes never leaving Solen. "Perhaps you seek what all wanderers do, the truth hidden in the stars, the meaning behind the darkness." It leaned forward slightly, its golden gaze brighter now. "Will you listen to the tales they have kept secret?" Solen frowned. "The stars? They have stories." "Oh yes," the owl said, its voice taking on a melodic cadence. stories older than time, spun from the light of creation itself. They linger in the spaces between, waiting for ears willing to hear them and hearts open enough to understand. Solen felt a strange pull, a magnetic force they could not explain. Something about the owl, its presence, its words, felt both alien and deeply familiar. "What do you want from me?" "Only your time," the owl replied, spreading its wings wide. "Come, traveler, let me show you what lies beneath the endless horizon. Let me weave for you the tapestry of the cosmos." Before Solen could respond, the nebula behind the owl began to shift and pulse, its light growing brighter and more intricate. Patterns emerged, constellations twisting into shapes, forming images that seemed alive. Solen's breath caught in their throat as they realized they were witnessing something ancient and profound, something far greater than themselves. And so, at the edge of the galaxy, under the watchful gaze of a night owl born of stars, Solen's journey began anew, not in search of answers, but in the embrace of stories. The nebula behind the night owl swirled into a symphony of light and shadow, its hues deepening into a cosmic tableau. As Solen stared, transfixed, the patterns began to coalesce, weaving themselves into shapes that breathed life. It was as though the universe itself had awakened, unfolding its story in a language older than time. The night owl's voice resonated, low and steady, guiding the tale like an ancient bard. "Long before your kind charted the stars, there was only the void. It stretched endlessly, silent and unbroken, yearning for something it could not name. The void was not cruel, nor was it kind. It was simply alone." As the owl spoke, Solen saw the story manifest. The nebulous canvas darkened, revealing a boundless emptiness, infinite and aching. They could feel it, the weight of solitude pressing against the edges of their mind, vast and unrelenting. The void dreamed, the owl continued, its golden eyes gleaming. It did not know what dreams were, for it had never seen them, yet it longed to fill itself with their light. From its yearning came the first flicker, a spark, faint but resolute. That spark became the first star. A point of light pierced the darkness, small and trembling, yet impossibly radiant. Solen watched as it grew, its glow casting shadows that danced like whispers of forgotten melodies. "The first star," the owl said, its voice softening, "was unlike any that came after. It was born not of heat or fusion, but of the void's own heart. Its light sang a song so pure that the void for the first time felt joy. But joy, traveler, is a fleeting thing." Solen felt the shift before they saw it. The star's light wavered, dimming as though burdened by the weight of its own existence. The void recoiled, its joy giving way to desperation. In its anguish, it reached out, pulling fragments of itself toward the dying star. "From its sorrow," the owl intoned, The void birthed companions, more stars to join the first. They were imperfect, forged in grief, but they burned brightly, their light weaving the first constellations. Together, they filled the void with stories. The scene before Solen changed again. Stars blossomed like flowers in a celestial garden, their light tracing lines that formed shapes. A lion roaring into eternity, a river cascading across the heavens, a pair of hands cradling the cosmos. Each constellation pulsed with its own rhythm, its own tale, as though the stars themselves breathed life into the fabric of existence. The constellations, the owl said, are more than adornments to your night sky. They are archives of memory, each one a story whispered across the eons. The lion sings of courage found in despair. The river flows with the tears of a love lost and found. The hands remind us that even the infinite can be held, if only for a moment. Solen felt a pang deep within their chest. The images before them stirred something raw and ancient, a longing they could not name. Why did the void create stories? They asked, their voice trembling. The owl's feathers shimmered, catching the light of the nebula. Because stories give meaning to the emptiness, it said. They shape the chaos, turning it into something that can be understood. And so, the void was no longer a void. It was the universe. The realization settled over Solen like starlight, illuminating the darkness within them. They thought of their own journey, the endless wandering that had brought them here. How much of it had been shaped by the stories they had heard, the ones they had told themselves. The owl seemed to sense their thoughts. You too are born of the void, it said. Your light is a story, just as the stars are. And though you may not see it yet, your constellation is already taking shape. As the last words fell from the owl's beak, the nebula dimmed, its colours fading into the quiet of the galaxy's edge. The stars remained, their light steady and enduring, like promises waiting to be fulfilled. Solen looked up at the night sky, their heart heavy with wonder. For the first time, they felt not like a wanderer lost in the vastness, but a part of the cosmos itself, a story unfolding among the stars. The galaxy's edge stretched before Solen like an infinite precipice, its emptiness a mirror to the traveller's own uncertainty. Beyond the veil of light and stardust lay the abyss, a realm that neither charts nor legends dared to define. It pulsed faintly, as though alive, and the faint hum it emanated was not of sound, but something deeper, an unspoken call that brushed against the edges of the soul. Solen's gaze lingered on the boundary, their breath catching as the vast unknown seemed to ripple, as if watching them in return. The night owl stirred, its feathers catching faint glimmers of light as it perched nearby. Its golden eyes, sharp and unwavering, turned toward the abyss. You feel its pull, don't you? The owl asked, its voice low and resonant. The edge whispers to all who dare approach it, promising answers yet delivering only reflections. Solen nodded slowly. It feels alive, like it's waiting for something or someone. The owl tilted its head, its gaze never leaving the swirling darkness. The abyss is a paradox. It holds neither malice nor mercy, yet it has swallowed countless souls who sought to uncover its mysteries. They came believing it to be an end, only to find it was a beginning they were unprepared to face. Solen frowned. But what is it? What lies beyond it? The owl's feathers ruffled, as though unsettled by the question. "It is not for me to say," it replied cryptically, "but I will tell you of the guardians." The nebulous expanse behind the owl shifted once more, its colours deepening into shadows that coalesced into towering shapes. From the darkness emerged the outlines of immense figures, their forms both ethereal and imposing. They seemed to shimmer in and out of existence, their edges undefined, as though carved from the fabric of the void itself. "The guardians of the abyss," the owl began, "are not beings as you understand them. They are echoes of the first stars, born to stand vigil at the boundary between existence and chaos. They are not there to protect you from the abyss, traveler. They are there to protect the abyss from you." Solen's breath hitched. "Protect it? Why?" "Because the abyss is pure potential," the owl explained. "A canvas upon which anything, everything could be painted. But such power, unrestrained, can unravel the very fabric of what is. The guardians ensure that only those who understand their own stories may pass, for only they can wield the potential without succumbing to it." As the owl spoke, the figures in the vision seemed to stir. One reached out a hand like appendage, its gesture both warning and invitation. Its presence was overwhelming, filling Solen with both awe and dread. The faint hum of the abyss grew louder, resonating in the traveller's chest like the toll of an unseen bell. "Many have sought to cross," the owl continued, its voice taking on a mournful tone. "Kings and conquerors, prophets and poets, all seeking answers to questions they could not ask. But they were not ready. They brought with them fear, ambition, and doubt, and the abyss reflected it back tenfold until they were consumed by their own shadows." Solen shivered, their hands curling into fists. "And those who succeeded?" The owl's gaze softened. "They were not without fear, but they embraced it. They carried not ambition, but purpose. They understood that the abyss does not give meaning. It only reveals what was already within." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Solen's thoughts churned, their mind replaying the countless choices, regrets, and doubts that had driven them to this place. What was within them? And would it be enough? The owl's golden eyes met theirs, unyielding and patient. "You stand at the threshold of your own story, traveler. The abyss calls to you, but it will not answer. Only you can decide if you are ready to face what it will show you. The vision of the guardians faded, leaving only the faint shimmer of the galaxy's edge. The abyss loomed ahead, its pull stronger than ever. Solen's heart pounded, each beat a question, each breath a step closer to the unknown. The owl's voice was a whisper now, carried on the faint winds of stardust. The guardians watch, Solen. They will not judge you, but they will test your truth. What you seek is not beyond the abyss. It is within it. Are you prepared to see? Solen's gaze returned to the infinite dark, their resolve wavering yet growing. The edge of the galaxy was no longer an ending, but a beginning, and the abyss was not a void. It was a mirror. The abyss stretched before Solen like an endless expanse of unspoken truths, daring them to take a step into its shadowed embrace. The faint hum that had drawn them closer now resonated in their chest, a soundless rhythm tethered to the depths of their own being. The night owl, perched silently nearby, watched with an intensity that made the traveler's heart tremble. "You carry your own constellation, Solen," the owl finally spoke, its golden eyes gleaming. "But it lies scattered, fragments of stars you have lost, forgotten, or chosen to bury. The abyss will show you their light, but only if you are willing to see." Solen hesitated. "What if I'm not ready? What if what it shows me is something I can't face?" The owl tilted its head, feathers rippling like starlight caught in a gentle breeze. "The abyss does not demand perfection, only honesty. Those who try to shield themselves from their truth find only darkness. But those who embrace their reflection discover a light that has always been there." Taking a breath that felt heavier than the void itself, Solen stepped closer to the precipice. The edge was a threshold of shimmering translucence, a surface neither solid nor liquid. It rippled as they approached, mirroring the traveler's hesitation. The abyss, alive and infinite, waited. The first step felt like falling, but there was no ground beneath them to meet their descent. Instead, Solen found themselves surrounded by an unfamiliar stillness, the world around them fading into a haze of shifting shadows and faint, flickering lights. The abyss had taken them. Images began to form in the dark, soft and indistinct at first, like the glimmers of stars through a veil of mist. Slowly, the shapes sharpened, and Solen realized they were standing in the middle of their own memories. The first was a child, their face bright with wonder as they gazed at the night sky. Solen remembered this moment, a time when the vastness of the universe had inspired awe rather than fear. The child reached upward, their small hand outstretched as though trying to grasp a star, and for a fleeting moment, Solen felt that innocent yearning once more. But the memory shifted abruptly. The child's joy was replaced by the weary face of a young adult, eyes hardened by disappointment. Solen saw themselves struggling, their hands clutching a broken telescope. The dream of reaching the stars, now a distant fantasy. The figure in the vision turned, meeting Solen's gaze with an expression that asked a question without words. Why did you give up? The traveler's chest tightened. They wanted to look away, but the abyss held them fast, forcing them to confront the truth in those eyes. I didn't mean to, Solen whispered. I thought it wasn't possible anymore. The scene dissolved, melting into a cascade of images that unfolded faster now. A moment of triumph followed by doubt. A choice made in fear rather than courage. A love abandoned because the road seemed too hard to follow. Each fragment was a star in the constellation of their life, and each carried its own weight. You see now, the owl's voice echoed faintly, though the creature itself was nowhere to be seen. The abyss holds no power over you but that which you give it. These are your stories, Solen, yours to claim or to deny. Solen's hands trembled as they reached out, touching one of the glowing fragments. It pulsed warmly under their fingers, and as they held it, the memory softened, its pain giving way to understanding. The moment had not been a failure, but a lesson, a star waiting to be added to the constellation of their truth. One by one, they gathered the fragments, each piece of light a part of the whole. With each star they claimed, the abyss grew brighter, its darkness receding as if retreating from their growing resolve. The constellation began to take shape, a pattern that was uniquely theirs, forged not from perfection, but from resilience. When Solen emerged from the abyss, the galaxy's edge looked different. The void no longer loomed as an unfathomable unknown. Instead, it shimmered with possibility. The night owl was waiting, its golden eyes filled with quiet pride. You have faced the truth of your own light, it said. Now you understand. The abyss is not your enemy. It is your reflection. Solen nodded, their hearts steady and their constellation glowing faintly within. The stories they carried were no longer burdens but gifts, and the journey ahead no longer seemed endless but full of promise. I think I'm ready, they said, their voice soft but resolute. The owl gave a small bow, its feathers glimmering as it prepared to take flight. Then go, traveler. The stars are waiting for the rest of your story. The galaxy's edge shimmered like the surface of a forgotten dream, no longer the threshold of an ending, but a doorway to infinite beginnings. Solen stood taller now. The weight of the abyss lifted, replaced by a quiet yet undeniable certainty. They carried within them a map of light, a constellation born of their own choices, fears and triumphs. Though faint, it pulsed with life, a reminder that even the smallest stars could illuminate the darkest skies. The night owl spread its wings, the soft rustle of its feathers blending with the whispers of stardust. You have crossed the boundary of what is known, it said, its voice like a melody carried on a distant wind. But the journey is not over. The light within you is not static, Solen. It is a story still unfolding. Solen nodded, gazing into the vastness before them. The abyss was no longer behind them, but part of them, woven into their being like an eternal companion. Its mysteries no longer felt daunting. Instead, they shimmered with the promise of discovery. "What lies ahead?" Solen asked, their voice quiet yet resolute. The owl tilted its head, a gesture both enigmatic and comforting. "The stars you see are only the beginning. Beyond them lies a canvas as boundless as your will to create. But tell me, traveler, what will you do with this light you now carry?" Solen hesitated, the question reverberating through their mind like the toll of an ancient bell. For so long, their journey had been driven by a search for something outside themselves, answers, meaning, validation. But now, standing at the galaxy's edge, they realized the truth. The journey was not about finding meaning, but creating it. "I'll share it," they said at last, their voice steady. "I'll share my light, my stories, with those who need it, just as you shared yours with me." The owl's golden eyes gleamed with approval. "A noble purpose," it said. "The stars are born not to keep their light, but to give it, to illuminate paths yet unseen and inspire those who follow. You, Solen, are now a star in the constellation of the cosmos." A soft breeze stirred the air, carrying with it the faint hum of celestial harmonies. The owl flapped its wings, rising into the nebulous glow, its silhouette a shadow against the tapestry of creation. "Farewell, traveler," it called, its voice fading like the last note of a haunting melody. "Your story is yours to tell, but remember, every star burns brighter when it shines with others." Solen watched as the owl disappeared into the starlit expanse, its presence lingering like the echo of a dream. The galaxy around them felt alive, no longer an indifferent void, but a symphony of light and shadow waiting to be explored. With a deep breath, Solen turned toward the path ahead. Each step they took felt like a thread weaving into the fabric of the universe. The constellations above seemed to shift as if responding to their resolve, their patterns forming stories that whispered of courage, love, and discovery. Solen could feel their own light growing stronger, not from perfection, but from the understanding that even their flaws were part of the constellation they carried. They passed through a field of dying stars, their remnants glowing faintly like embers of forgotten dreams. Solen paused, their hand brushing against one of the fading lights. It flickered, and in its glow they saw a memory, not their own, but someone else's. A life filled with yearning, a journey cut short by fear. Solen closed their eyes and spoke softly. "Your light is not gone. It's part of the whole now, part of the stories we all share." The star pulsed once, then joined the others, its faint glow adding to the tapestry of the sky. As Solen ventured farther, The edge of the galaxy became a distant memory, yet the lessons it had imparted remained vivid. Each step was no longer a search for purpose, but an act of creation. They painted the void with their stories, their constellation growing brighter with every moment of courage, every connection forged. At last, Solen stood atop a ridge of crystalline rock, the view stretching endlessly before them. The stars seemed closer now, their light no longer a distant mystery, but a familiar companion. Solen smiled, the abyss within them no longer a shadow, but a reservoir of strength. With a final glance at the path they had walked, Solen whispered, "I am part of the cosmos, and the cosmos is part of me." And as they stepped forward, their light joined the stars, a new constellation born not of perfection, but of resilience. A reminder that every journey, no matter how uncertain, has the power to create something extraordinary.